Week 15, aka week 1 of the fantasy playoffs, is finally in the books. And if you made it to the next round, which is week 16, congratulations. Technically the semifinals, 1 week out of the fantasy finals. I can congratulate you in advance here for making this the next round, essentially, to week 16. As always, we like to bring you our top 10 waiver wire picks each and every week. We are definitely continuing this into week 16. There are so many ways that you can help your team if you are dealing with injuries, whatever the case may be. We got it here for you. And yes, I am back. I was away for 3 weeks. I went to go spend time with family, but now I am back grinding it out, giving you everything that I know. And I have deep dived in for you guys, especially here in week 16. I may not sound the best or look the best because I am doing this with COVID. I have COVID right now, so shout out to COVID. But let's get straight into the video. As always, we like to bring you our top 10 waiver wire picks of each and every week. And at number 10, I have Russell Gage, available in 82% of leagues. The next 2 games he's playing the Carolina Panthers. He is playing the Carolina Panthers, but he is playing the Arizona Cardinals first and then the Carolina Panthers this past week. He did go off, caught 8 out of 12 passes, 2 touchdowns, over 25 fantasy points. I think this is more of an up and down game. This is why he's number 10. I'm not spending so much fab. If you do have fab left over, if he's available, why not pick him up, stash him, see what happens. Maybe if he does continue this into week 15 or week 16, excuse me, and let's say somebody does get hurt in week 15, Russell Gage could be a good plug-in play. But right now, it's just more of a pick him up, see what happens, and if something does happen, go ahead, start him if there is opportunity. And at number 9, we have KJ Osborne, available in 83% of leagues. Kind of the same thing as Russell Gage. He just went off this past week. Absolutely bonkers. Caught 10 out of 16 targets, 157 yards, and a touchdown, over 31 fantasy points. Obviously, Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook and TJ Hawkinson all kind of ate in this game, but this is kind of a one-off thing. If Adam Thielen does go down, it feels really confident, really good that KJ Osborne can kind of come in and take this role, but we're still waiting for that. Once again, we're not spending any fab if you have any, but just kind of guys to pick up and just see what happens. You're not starting him and playing him, but just saying, hey, if Adam Thielen goes down, cool, KJ Osborne I have. If Justin Jefferson goes down, cool, KJ Osborne I have. So definitely pick up KJ Osborne and see what happens. And at number 8, we have Brock Purdy, the guy that's doing it. He's doing it all. I mean, he is a third quarterback on this roster. Trey Lance, Jimmy G, now Brock Purdy taking this team to the playoffs. Sounds crazy. I am so excited to see what's going to happen in this 49ers quarterback room. Brock Purdy, currently available 89% of sleeper leagues. Next 2 matchups is very, very favorable if you are struggling with the quarterback position. Next 2 matchups is Washington and the Raiders, who both currently give up a good, decent amount of points to the quarterback position. If you are struggling that somebody that had Kyler Murray, that has Ryan Tannehill or Daniel Jones, Brock Purdy could be a good pickup and plug and play guy depending on the matchup. Once again, Washington and Raiders are the next 2, which sounds really exciting. This past week, threw 2 touchdowns, had 20 fantasy points. I mean, he's doing his thing right now, so why not pick up Brock Purdy if you do have that extra spot? See what happens. Maybe he could be a better start over someone like a Tom Brady at times. You know, there's definitely some players that you can definitely start him over. Definitely pick up Brock Purdy and see what happens. And at number 7, we have Chris Moore, available in 91% of leagues. Didn't have the best game this week like he did in week 14 against the Cowboys. Let me remind you, he caught 10 out of 11, 124 yards, over 22 fantasy points he had in week 14, but in week 15 caught 4 out of 9 targets for only 42 yards, just under 9 fantasy points. It wasn't the best performance, especially versus the Kansas City Chiefs that kind of actually surprisingly give up a lot of points to the wide receiver position. Once again, another guy to pick up. You're not plugging and playing him, especially if Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins is out, unless you really need a desperation play. Chris Moore, pick him up, see what happens, and don't start him just yet. But if there is some opportunity and maybe you're dealing with injuries, have a conversation. Comment down below if you have any questions. And at number 6, we have Marquise Goodwin, available in 94% of leagues. Obviously, Tyler Lockett went down and is out with that finger injury. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he is done for the season. Hollywood Brown, once again, available in 94% of league, has the Chiefs and then the Jets. He is stepping up to that number 2 role. Now DK Metcalf, Marquise Goodwin, Kenneth Walker, Geno Smith. These are games that they have to try and win. They're going to have to try and do everything in their power if they want to make it to the playoffs. Marquise Goodwin right now, not a guy that I would pick up plug and play, but more of like, okay, let's wait and see what happens if you do have that one extra week. But if there is a desperation times, and you know, let's say you had someone like a Tyler Lockett and now you need Marquise Goodwin, I understand if you have to start him in your flex, but there's definitely could be some better options, which I'll be coming to here very soon. But hey, if he is available, which he should be in 94% of leagues, has a couple good matchups against the Chiefs and a so-so one against the Jets. So pick up Marquise Goodwin and see what happens. And at number 5, if you need a tight end, Dawson Knox, available in 45% of leagues. And I know, hey, maybe he is available, maybe he's not available. But if you do need a tight end, with the tight end positions being so up and down all throughout the year, outside of Travis Kelce, Dawson Knox could be a good plug and play. Week 14, over 14 fantasy points, scored a touchdown. Week 15, this past week, over 21 fantasy points and scored a touchdown. That was against the Jets defense, Miami's defense, and now he's going against Chicago's defense, who technically currently give the 3rd fewest points to the tight end position, but he is going to be one of my starts of the week, just purely based off of what's happening. These guys are wanting to win, need to win this division. Technically, anyone can still technically win it. You know, the Miami Dolphins is there. The Jets are kind of rocking. So some of these games do matter. And Dawson Knox, especially in the fantasy perspective, if he can continue to get some of this workload, caught 6 out of 8 this past week. The week before, caught 4 out of 7. He's getting targeted, and hopefully he can find the end zone as he has in the past 2 games. So pick up Dawson Knox if you do need a tight end. And at number 4, if you need a running back, Tyler Algier, available in 59% of leagues. This past week, carried the ball 17 times, 139 yards and a touchdown, 8.1 yards per carry, over 22 fantasy points against the New Orleans Saints, who are a very, very good run defense in their front 4. But he went to do his thing, and it looks like they're kind of spreading the ball out with him and Cordell Patterson. It looks more like a 50-50 split at the moment. It's maybe 60-40 in favor of Cordell Patterson, but Tyler Algier has been getting the opportunity on the ground, and when he does find the end zone, it does really help. If you need a running back position, if you need someone that's went down, you know, you're dealing with injuries like someone like a Jonathan Taylor, whatever the case may be, a Kenneth Walker, whatever the situation is, you know, Tyler Algier can definitely help you here. He's playing the Ravens and then the Cardinals. Is this sexy whatsoever? No, but you might be in a situation where you might have to start him. And if he is available in your leagues, which he could be in 59% of leagues, you could pick him up here. So pick up Tyler Algier and see what happens. And at number 3, we have Zay Jones, available in 56% of leagues. And Zay's been going off, man. Zay's been doing his thing. The last, if I'm not mistaken, 4 games, he has scored over 14 fantasy points. The last 4 out of 5 games, he scored over 14 fantasy points. And he's been going off. You know, this past week in week 15, caught 6 out of 8 targets, over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns, 34 fantasy points. Let me remind you, week 14, 8 out of 12 and a touchdown, 21 fantasy points. Week 12, 11 out of 14, 27 fantasy points. And in week 10, a couple weeks back now, 8 out of 10 targets for 14 fantasy points. Trevor Lawrence has been finding his groove. This team has been finding his rhythm, and they just beat the Dallas Cowboys, which is fantastic and amazing if you just don't like the Dallas Cowboys. But hey, Zay Jones, available in 56% of leagues. If you need a flex, a desperation, let's say someone like you had a Debo, you had a Tyler Lockett that's been injured. These are the guys. Zay Jones could be your league winner, playing against the New York Jets, a fairly good defense. But the expectation is that, Sauce Gardner potentially be on Marvin Jones or somebody else, Christian Kirk, So, hey, Zay Jones, 56% of leagues still available, has the Jets and then the Texans in week 17 in the fantasy championship if you are still there. So pick them up and see what happens. And at number 2, we have 2 players for you technically, Deon Jackson and Zach Moss. Deon Jackson available in 92% of leagues and Zach Moss available in 95% of leagues. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor went down with that ankle injury he was seeing with the boot, and I think he is going to miss some time or potentially the remainder of the season, at least the fantasy season, which is at least 2 weeks, depending on your leagues. So if you do need a desperation play, if you need to pick up somebody, whatever the case may be, because you did win in week 15, going into week 16, Deon Jackson and or Zach Moss could be the guy. Now, I've been trying to find everything possible to tell you who's going to be the guy, and it's actually really hard. It is 50-50 split. Deon Jackson this past week, 13 carries. When Jonathan Taylor went down, 13 carries, 55 yards, and only caught the ball once, right? Had 10 fantasy points. He was on the field for 32% of the time. Now, what's interesting is Zach Moss, 24 carries, 81 yards, was on the field for 67% of the time, but only had 8.1 fantasy points. So obviously Zach Moss did outsnap and get more opportunities than Deon Jackson. I'm not necessarily sure. I mean, according to the numbers, I would have to say it's going to be Zach Moss, right? But my gut is telling me that it's Deon Jackson. He knows this offense a lot better. He was the backup before Jonathan Taylor, when Jonathan Taylor originally went down, and he did carry that workload, which we did see around like week 6, if I'm not mistaken, against Jacksonville. 12 carries, 42 yards, had a touchdown, caught 10 out of 10 passes, had 28 fantasy points. Zach Moss is new to this team and hasn't really had the workload. Can he carry the tote? We've never seen him have that opportunity. But on paper, it does say he has 67% of leagues. In my opinion, if there was anyone I want to pick up, it's going to be Deon Jackson, once again, based off of the opportunity he's had in the past and what we've seen also in the past with this team. So if I were you, I'll be picking up Deon Jackson. If you do need him, once again, available in 92% of leagues. But if Deon Jackson is not available, Zach Moss is there in 95% of the leagues, and he could potentially be taking and having a massive role in the next couple of weeks. He has the Chargers and the Giants, who both are teams that give up a lot of points to the running back position. So definitely go check that out. And my number 1 waiver wire pickup this week is Jet McKinnon, available in 48% of leagues. And the reason why I bring him is because I'm so surprised of everything that's happened the last couple of weeks, and it's just the opportunity he's getting in the air. If you're in a PPR league and you're trying to win your matchup and you're saying that Jet McKinnon is available, and you have someone like a Brian Robinson or Deon Jackson, or Tyler Algier, I'm looking at Jet McKinnon and saying I'd rather have him because he plays with Patrick Mahomes and the opportunity he has been getting. Week 13, over 14 fantasy points. Didn't really do much, carried the ball 8 times, 51 yards, only caught 2 out of 2, but scored a touchdown, right? Week 14 against the Denver Broncos, only carried the ball 6 times, but he caught the ball. He had 7 targets. He caught the ball 7 times out of 9 targets and had 2 touchdowns, which is 32 fantasy points. That was against the Denver Broncos once again. And this past week, an amazing game. 10 carries, 52 yards, and a touchdown on the ground, and caught 8 out of 8 passes for 70 yards and a touchdown. Jet McKinnon feels like he is the more solidified running back, especially in the red zone. He's been getting opportunity in the red zone over Isaiah Pacheco. It feels like they trust him more, especially now when it comes down to crunch time, when it comes down to these games that they have to win. They were down against Houston. They went into overtime, and who did they trust? Jet McKinnon. So I'm really excited if he is available in 48% of leagues, which is nearly 50%. I mean, I put in waiver wire claims for him in some of my home leagues, and I'm really excited. Hopefully I can pick him up and start him for someone that has been struggling with injuries like Jonathan Taylor and all these other running backs. If I can get him on my team and start him, I would rather personally start him. So these are my top 10 guys. I really hope that helps you out. I really hope that my voice hasn't strained too much for you guys since for COVID. But if you made it this far into the video, we appreciate each and every one of you. And hey, say thank you to Zach, man. He's been holding it down the past 3 weeks. We really appreciate him and all the hard work he's been putting it through. And Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. I hope you spend time with family, and good luck going into week 16 and everything that's happening in the fantasy football world. Good luck.
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos,
watch it.
You can also subscribe
right now
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLand fam.